people inside to hand over their money. The guy in the gray t-shirt throws some bills on the floor. Two customers cower under a table as they give up their cash.
Thieves made off with millions in these daring, historic heists. Along with winning the lottery, robbing a bank is a time-honored technique used by people who fantasize about never having to work again. Granted, it's the more extreme method, and it's successful only as long as you don't get caught. But many robbers do find themselves behind bars eventually. There is something delicious about a heist, especially a brilliant caper plotted by a mastermind and featuring a crew of shady criminals plotting an impossible break-in. Authentic jobs can be just as gratifying as their fictional Hollywood counterparts, packed with plot twists, backstabbing and drama. Pull up a chair as Tell Me TV shares the best-laid plans of vice and men. As you'll discover here, pulling off a heist is not quite as easy as it appears in the movies. We count down the 20 largest bank robberies ever staged and tell you where the loot went. Number 20. D.B. Cooper's adventure. Amount stolen, $200,000. An American known only as D.B. Cooper is best known for his outlandish air piracy raid in 1971. Cooper hijacked a Boeing 747 between Portland and Seattle by threatening to set off a bomb. He extorted $200,000, which he collected when the plane landed briefly in Seattle. Passengers were allowed to leave, but Cooper ordered the pilots to take off again. Two fighter jets were scrambled to follow the plane, but despite this, Cooper disappeared, parachuting out with bags full of his ill-gotten gains. Cooper was never found or identified, and to this day, rumors and theories abound. Number 19. Stockholm helicopter robbery. Amount stolen, $5.3 million. In 2009, police were stunned by Sweden's first helicopter robbery. A stolen chopper landed on the roof of a cash depot building in Stockholm just after 5 a.m. Thieves smashed in with sledgehammers, blew out security doors with explosives, and raided vaults flush with cash. The helicopter loitered overhead, on standby to hoist up bags of cash and haul the men up. Authorities couldn't use their own helicopters because a bag-marked bomb was placed in their hangar. Police cars speeding to the building found their tires blown out by spikes on the road. 10 men were charged in the $5.3 million robbery. None were sentenced to more than 7 years, and the money was never recovered. Number 18. The Great Canadian Maple Syrup Heist. Amount stolen, $13.7 million. The Great Canadian Maple Syrup Heist of the century was carried out over several months in 2011 and 2012 when nearly 3,000 tons of maple syrup valued at US $13.7 million disappeared from a storage facility in the province of Quebec, about 77% of the world's supply. The perpetrators siphoned syrup from barrels and replaced it with water. The gang was caught sticky-handed and imprisoned. In 2022, Canada's Supreme Court ruled that the mastermind behind the caper must pay back the full amount of the stolen syrup or spend another 6 years behind bars, proving that sometimes justice is sweet. Number 17. The British Bank of the Middle East robbery. Amount stolen, $20 million to $50 million.
News broke of the biggest cash robbery in British history.
Forget the Great Train robbery, forget the Northern Bank in Belfast. Britain's biggest ever robbery took place in the early hours of this morning.
In 1976, when Lebanon was in the midst of a civil war, a group of robbers decided to cash in on the confusion. In one of the most brazen robberies of all time, the group used explosives to burst through the wall of a Catholic church and enter the neighboring British Bank of the Middle East. They brought with them professional locksmiths to crack open the vault. The robbers made off with $44.5 million in cash, stocks, gold bars, jewels, and other valuables. None of the loot was recovered, and no one was arrested. Today, the stolen goods are worth more than 3 times their value in 1976. Number 16. London's Brink's-Mat gold robbery. Amount stolen, $37 million. 6 thieves in balaclavas, one topped with a trilby hat, broke into the Brink's-Mat warehouse at London's Heathrow Airport in 1983 and tied up the security guards. One of them, Anthony Black, worked with the robbers. Their goal was to steal $4 million from the vault. Instead, the thieves found 3 tons of gold bullion, 7,000 gold bars. Within 2 hours, the job turned into the biggest gold heist in British history. The men slipped away in a van, buckling under the weight of $37 million in gold, diamonds and cash, wishing the security guards a Merry Christmas as they drove off.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal. And a Happy New Year.
Stealing the gold was easy compared to fencing it. The gang had to melt down the pure ingots and mix the gold with copper and brass, so the purity didn't arouse suspicion. It didn't take long for police to finger Black and follow the gang's money trail. Not all of the robbers were convicted, however, and most of the gold is still missing. One of the thieves reportedly named his 2 Rottweiler dogs Brinks and Matt. Number 15. The Northern Bank robbery. Amount stolen, $41 million. The week before Christmas 2004, robbers in Belfast, Northern Ireland, dressed as police officers and entered the homes of 2 bank managers. Their families were held hostage, and the managers were instructed to go to work as normal the next day. When the workday ended, the managers let the thieves into the bank, where they stole about 26.5 million British pounds and additional foreign currencies. It is one of the biggest bank robbery in history of the United Kingdom. The case is still unsolved, and so far only one person has been arrested for money laundering. Number 14. The Banco Central burglary. Amount stolen, $71.6 million. The 2005 Banco Central burglary in Fortaleza, Brazil, was once recognized by Guinness Book of World Records as the world's greatest bank robbery. To pull it off, a 25-member gang set up a fake landscaping business. They spent 3 months digging a 256-foot tunnel that led up through the bank's vault floor. Once inside, they stole several containers that held 160 million Brazilian real, worth $71.6 million in 2005. Only 8 people were arrested, and just 20 million reais was recovered. Number 13. The 2008 Harry Winston heist in Paris was le casse du siècle. Amount stolen, $73 million. 2 Harry Winston thefts in Paris are among the most lucrative robberies in history. In 2007, 4 men dressed as painters stole $37 million in jewels in a daylight heist. A year later, in 2008, 4 men entered the same jewelry shop. 3 of the men, referred to in the media as the Pink Panthers, wore wigs and dresses. Within 20 minutes, they'd stolen 104 watches and 297 pieces of jewelry valued at $73 million. 8 men were eventually convicted, among them a Harry Winston security guard, Mouloud Jenad. He'd locked up the evening before the first robbery when the painters were let in and, security camera footage showed, moved around freely during the 2008 robbery instead of contacting police. Number 12. The Securitas Depot robbery. Amount stolen, $83 million. The largest cash robbery in British history went down in 2006 at a security services company's warehouse in Kent. An inside man filmed the interior of the Securitas depot in preparation. Then, men clad in elaborate masks kidnapped the branch manager and held his family hostage. The robbers took him to the warehouse and forced him to give them access to the cash cages. The crew stole about $83 million. Despite their clever disguises, Some of the robbers were caught, and the makeup artist who designed the masks became a key witness in the case. Number 11. The Knightsbridge security deposit robbery. Amount stolen, $97 million. Valerio Vice, who was already wanted for more than 50 armed robberies in Italy, almost committed the perfect crime in London in 1987. He and an assistant walked into a bank and asked to rent a safe deposit box. When the men were shown to the vault, they pulled out guns and overpowered the bank manager and guards. After putting a closed sign on a bank door, they let in some friends, broke into as many of safe deposit boxes as possible, and made off with millions in cash and valuables. Vice fled to South America, but was eventually arrested when he returned to England to ship his Ferrari to his new home. Number 10. Revenge of the Loomis Fargo slave wage worker. Amount stolen, $18.8 million. Philip Noel Johnson drove a Loomis Fargo armored car for 10 years, each day thinking up ways to leave his $7 an hour job. By 1997, the 33-year-old had driven straight into the history books. Instead of spending a night in front of the TV, Johnson handcuffed one of his co-workers, left him in the bedroom closet of Johnson's Jacksonville, Florida home, and put a jug of water and snacks nearby. Jackson left another co-worker handcuffed to a small tree in nearby North Carolina and set off for Mexico. He'd been planning the heist for 5 years, had fake IDs, and had learned Spanish. The only problem was that the truckload of cash was impossible to carry, so Johnson stashed most of it in North Carolina. 5 months later, when Johnson tried to re-enter America by bus, his nervousness aroused the suspicion of a U.S. border guard. She discovered he had IDs with multiple aliases. Of the $18.8 million Johnson stole, all but $186,000 was recovered. Number 9. The Diamond Wheelers of Hatton Garden. Amount stolen, $20 million. Britain's 2015 Hatton Garden heist was legendary, a job so audacious it was turned into several movies, including The King of Thieves. A gang, known as the Diamond Wheezers due to their elderly age, broke into a safe deposit company and drilled through the 50 centimeters, 20-inch, thick walls with an industrial power drill to bypass the main vault door. Within a month of the heist, Scotland Yard had arrested Brian Reeder, 76, known as the Master, who'd previously been jailed for the Brinksmat robbery. 7 men are believed to have stolen cash and jewelry worth $20 million. Only $3 million was ever recovered. Number 8. Bangladesh Bank cyber heists. Amount stolen, $81 million. The Bangladesh Bank robbery, also known colloquially as the Bangladesh Bank cyber heist, was a theft that took place in February 2016. 35 fraudulent instructions were issued by security hackers via the SWIFT network to illegally transfer close to $1 billion from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York account belonging to Bangladesh Bank, the central bank of Bangladesh. 5 of the 35 fraudulent instructions were successful in transferring $101 million, with $81 million traced to the Philippines and $20 million to Sri Lanka. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York blocked the remaining 30 transactions, amounting to $850 million, due to suspicions raised by a misspelled instruction. As of 2018, only around $18 million of the $81 million transferred to the Philippines has been recovered, and all the money transferred to Sri Lanka has since been recovered. Most of the money transferred to the Philippines went to 4 personal accounts, held by single individuals and not to companies or corporations. California Dreaming. Amount stolen, $18.9 million. The Dunbar robbery seemed like the perfect crime. The gang had blueprints, inside information, even a key. One evening in 1997, 6 men attended a party in Long Beach, California. With their alibis established, the men slipped into black clothing and masks. Their rented van headed to the Los Angeles Dunbar Armored Truck Depot. They opened the depot's side door with the key and ambushed night shift guards as they dropped by the cafeteria on breaks. The men timed the security cameras to avoid detection and loaded the van with $19 million in cash. The thieves laundered the money through property deals but were eventually thwarted by a schoolboy error. One of the men handed a real estate agent a wad of cash wrapped with a Dunbar seal. Alan Pace, an ex-Dunbar guard, was sentenced to 24 years in prison. About $10 million is still missing. Number 6. The United California bank heist. Amount stolen, $30 million. In 1972, Emil Dincio, a professional criminal from Ohio, assembled a gang of 6 robbers and flew them to California. They rented a townhouse and planned a heist on a bank where they had, mistakenly, heard President Richard Nixon kept a multi-million-dollar slush fund. The crew dynamited their way into the vault, stole $30 million worth of cash and valuables, and fled after meticulously scrubbing down the townhouse. The cops eventually identified the robbers through a generous tip they'd given a taxi driver, and through fingerprints found on the inside of the townhome's dishwasher. Number 5. Carter's Market hacks. Amount stolen, 2 million credit cards compromised, and $87 million in fraudulent purchases. This infamous hack occurred through multiple exploits and victims on the dark web. To be precise, it occurred on competing credit card resellers' markets, which the attacker used to build his own database. This crippled the competitors and led to one of the biggest cyber attacks ever. The attack was executed by an individual known online as the Iceman, or his real name, Max Butler. He ended up pleading guilty to 2 counts of wire fraud with a sentence of 14 years, which at the time was the largest sentence of any hacker in America. He was also ordered to pay nearly $40 million in restitution. Number 4. Belgium's diamond heist of the century. Amount stolen, $100 million. The Antwerp World Diamond Center robbery is one of the most elaborate heists in history, a break-in at a vault 2 floors underground, protected by no fewer than 10 layers of security. Leonardo Notarbartolo disguised himself as a diamond merchant and moved into an apartment next to the center in 2000. In 2003, Notarbartolo's crew stole diamonds and gold worth $100 million without triggering any of the 63 security cameras. Notarbartolo was eventually linked to the crime by roadside trash and DNA found on a sandwich. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Many of the jewels were never found. Number 3. The Dar es Salaam Bank heist. Amount stolen, $282 million. To this day, few details are known about the 2007 robbery at Dar es Salaam Bank, a private financial institution in Baghdad, Iraq. It's unclear why the bank had so much American cash on hand to steal. Allegedly, the theft was orchestrated by several bank guards. The government suspected the robbers also had contacts within local police and militias that allowed them to pass through the many checkpoints across Baghdad undetected. No further information has been released about the whereabouts of the money or those responsible. The robbery of the millennium. Amount that would have been stolen, $500 million. London celebrated the turn of the century with fireworks and a diamond display at its new Millennium Dome Exhibition Centre on the Thames River. The centerpiece was the Millennium Star, a stunning 203-carat diamond. It was not altogether surprising then when a gang plotted a smash and grab. The plan was to crash into the dome with a bulldozer, take a sledgehammer to cases filled with jewels, then escape by speedboat, all in broad daylight. Scotland Yard was tipped off, but didn't know when. So 200 officers posed as staff and cleaners with their guns hidden in garbage bags. Dozens more lingered around the river. When the bulldozer finally crashed into the dome, police arrested most of the gang on the spot. 2 were nabbed on the river and several more at a safe house. The media, who'd berated the dome for being nothing more than a government-built white elephant, admitted the centre had finally lived up to its self-styled billing, providing one amazing day. The De Beers Diamond Exhibition had a number of jewels on display, including the Millennium Star, a flawless 20304 carat 40.608 gem with an estimated worth of £200 million, equivalent to £358 million in 2021, and considered one of the most perfect gems in the world. Also on display were priceless blue diamonds. The attempted robbery was foiled by the flying squad, led by John Shatford, of the Metropolitan Police Service, as a result of information from Kent Police Serious Crime, who already had the gang members under surveillance for their suspected roles in a number of unsuccessful armoured vehicle robberies. The operation to foil the robbery was the biggest operation undertaken in the flying squad's history, and at trial, the judge in the case commended the way it was carried out. If the heist had succeeded, then with a haul of $500 million worth of diamonds, it would have become one of the biggest robberies in history. Number 1. The Central Bank of Iraq robbery. Amount stolen, over $920 million. Another robbery in Baghdad became the largest bank heist in history. The mastermind was none other than Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein. One day before the Iraq War began in 2003, he sent 3 large trucks to the central bank. He also sent his son, Qusay, with a handwritten note asking to withdraw nearly $1 billion to keep it from enemy hands. The money was loaded into vans and driven away. Most of the cash was recovered in the ensuing raids, but it doesn't end here. Tasked with counting the illicit loot, American soldiers made off with hundreds of thousands of dollars for themselves and their families. 35 service members were caught. Engaging in illegal activities, such as a money heist or any criminal act, is not only morally wrong, but also comes with serious consequences.